Kakadosh, Boker Or, Daf Yomi Masechet Batra Daf Yomi Amud Aleph 158A1 says the Mishnah, Nafal Abayit Alav Ve'al Ishto. If right now comes the house and it fell on him and on his wife, I guess he planned wrong and it also fell on him. Yeah. So what happens is they both die. Now we don't know who dies first, and therefore, right, this wife does not have any children from this husband. So now the Yorshim come to speak about what's going on. 158, Kuf Nun Chet. Yeah. So therefore, the Yorshim come, and now you have a machloket. Why? The Yorshim of the husband. That's what we're going to say. Yorshei Abal, the inheritors of the husband come, and then when they say, Haisha meta rishona, the woman died first, and then afterwards died the husband. So therefore, if the woman died first and then the husband inherits the wife, and therefore they inherit everything from her. Right? They inherit everything. So they inherit him and her. That's the best part of the deal. Yeah? Yorshei Isha omnim. But the ones that the inheritors of the wife say the opposite. Habal met rishon. The husband died, and then the woman died. So therefore, obviously, the woman doesn't inherit the husband. But at least her properties go back to her family, right? Because the husband never really inherited him, right? Because he died first. So he says, it's a machlok, Bet Shammai, Bet Hillel, just like we said last time. Bet Shammai, only Bet Shammai come and they say yachloku, which means you're going to divide the properties between them because it's going to be mamon mutal b'safek, and therefore they divide it, meaning it's money, which we have a doubt about it, and therefore you're going to do what? You're going to divide it. Bet Hillel, only Bet Hillel come and they say nechasim, right? When we're talking about now the nichset tzonu barzel, becheskatan, right? They stay in their chazakah, which the Gemara is going to explain. What does that mean? Remember that a woman brings in two different types of properties, nichse melug and nichse tzonu barzel. Right? There is going to be a difference between them, even though they all belong to her. There's going to be a difference between them in achrayut, which means that, for example, if it goes up and down in value or things like that. So usually nichse melug, right? She brings it in, he gets the fruit, right, and then he gives it back. We're going to be different. What's the difference between nichse tzonu barzel and nichse melug? 1 second. So he says like this: when we're talking about nichse tzonu barzel, right? He comes and he says they're going to stay in their chazakah. Ketubah, the ketubah, becheskat yoresh habal. It's going to be in yoresh habal. Why? Because who owns the ketubah? The husband. The husband has to pay the ketubah. So therefore, leave it in the chazakah that he doesn't have to pay the ketubah. Yeah? He comes and he says, nechasim, right? He comes and he says like this. He says, nechasim, right? Anichnasim veyotzim ima. When we're talking about now, nichse melug, which they come in and out with him, right? Which is talking about nichse melug, becheskat yoresh ha'av. It goes with the yorshim of the husband. And therefore, just like we said, right, that means basically what Bet Hillel is saying is just leave each one in their chazakah. And once you leave each one in their chazakah, we don't have to divide anything. When you divide anything, everything goes in their chazakah. Okay, fine. Gemara, Kuf Nun Chet Amud Bet. Yeah, we're flying. Yeah, says the Gemara, Becheskat mi. Who is the chazakah exactly? Yeah, who is this chazakah? So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan Amar, because the Gemara, the Mishnah said, you leave it in the chazakah. Who's the chazakah? Who has the chazakah? Yeah, exactly. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Rabbi Yochanan says, Becheskat Yoshei Abal. Nichse tzonu barzel are not like nichse melug, right? Becheskat Yoshei Isha. Why? Nichse tzonu barzel, the husband could sell them, and if they go down in value, he loses out, right? So basically, the nichse tzonu barzel is not like nichse melug. Is basically it's like a lease, but you don't own the property. So therefore, the property came into you. You only get the fruits, which is the rent. Other than that, nothing. So that's nichse melug. Nichse tzonu barzel. The fact that if it goes up and down in value, you have to pay that. Meaning, if it went up, you gained. If it went down, you lost. If right now you can even sell it, but then afterwards you just give her back a new property. You have to pay, right? So therefore, as in the beginning. So therefore, right? Exactly. That's why it's nichse tzonu barzel. Nichse melug, you also take the fruits. You always take the fruits, both. The only difference is what happens if it goes up and down in value, and are you able to sell the field or not? So nichse melug, right? You're not allowed to touch the field. The field belongs to her. You only get the rent, right? It goes up and down, it's to her. Nothing belongs to you. Except to barzel, it does belong to you. What does that mean? Technically speaking, it's hers. But no, she brings in a field. They value the field. It's $100,000. I don't care what you do with the field. When she leaves, if she leaves, obviously, because if she dies, then he inherits everything. But if she leaves for divorce or whatever it is, so then what happens? she takes with her. She gets the $100,000. Doesn't matter what happens. Whether it went up, down, this, that, she gets it back. So says the Gemara, right? Right now that the Setun Barzel, the Cheskat, who the Cheskat the husband, because since the husband could come and he could sell it, and if it goes up and down in value, he could sell it. So therefore it's in the Chazak of the husband. If it's in the Chazak of the husband keeps it. Why? Maybe the woman died. Maybe she died first. And if she died first, he gets it. So therefore the Chazakah belongs to who? To the Yorshei Av. Rabbi Lazar says, no, Becheskat Yorshei Isha. It's in the Chizkat of the Yorshei Isha because he wants to say that it's like Nichse Melug, which we already said that Nichse Melug belonged to the woman. Everything belongs to the woman. He just gets the fruit. So therefore, there's going to be a machloket to do with the Nichse Tzon Barzel. Are they compared to the Nichse Melug or not? If you tell me they're compared to the Nichse Melug, so therefore it's always going to be Yorshei, right? It should be like Yorshei Isha. If you're going to tell me now, right, that it's Nichse Tzon Barzel and it's a separate entity, so that's Yorshei Av. Rabbi Shimon Lakish Mishum Bar Kapara Omer says Rabbi Shimon Lakish name Bar Kapara Yachloku. Divide it. You have a doubt. Divide it. Right? Why? Because each one have a Tana. And since each one have a Tana, and each one is saying that the other one died first, so therefore it comes out that there's no real chazakah. These ones are saying it's in the chazakah of the husband. This one is the chazakah of the wife. So divide it. Since they're both coming to inherit, you just divide it between them. Okay? Fine. So we had a machloket in the Mishnah between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, and then we had a machloket in the Gemara between the Moraim, right? Whether we're going to have Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Lazar, or Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, the Resh Lakish, in the name of Kapara, right? Do you say Yachloku? Okay. Next case. Next Mishnah. Kuf Nun Chet Amud Bet 158b. The Mishnah says the Mishnah Nafal Habayit Alav ve'alimo. What happens if the house fell on him and on his mother? So now, right? What happens is as follows. Now, we don't know who died first. Now, again, we're going to try to evaluate about Nichse Ha'em. Why? Let's try to explain. If right now the mother died first, so who inherits? The son. So now, 1 second, but he's the only boy, mitzad, this mother, right? He's got brothers, mitzad, the father. So if the mother died, half brother, right? So therefore, if right now the mother dies and it goes down to him, so now who inherits him? The half brothers, meaning the brothers from the father's side. And it's not going to be from the mother's side at all. So she completely loses out everything. Her family loses out completely. What? One more time. You have a mother and a son. So if the mother dies first, who inherits? The son. The son is the only heir from the mother in this side. So she had other kids from no, not her. He. So therefore, if he dies, who inherits him? His half brothers, right? So therefore, the mother's family loses everything because whatever she had goes to the son. The son died, so now it goes to this side. So it goes to the half brothers. It goes to this side of the family, which has nothing to do with her family. Bichlal, this came from another marriage. This bichlal came from somebody else. So for her, her family members obviously are going to say that what? Who died first? The son. Because now if the son dies first, what happens? If the son dies first, and then, so no, everything stays with the mother. Everything stays with the mother. It goes to her family. So there's going to be a machloke between her family and the son's half brothers, basically, and the son's family. So says the Gemara, if right now it fell on him and on his mother, right? So therefore, elu va'elu, whether it's going to be Bet Hillel or Bet Shammai, modin shiachloku. They're going to say that you're going to divide it. That means even according to Bet Hillel, that he previously said in all these Mishnayot, he said that's because one of them is muhzak. Here, nobody's muhzak. Muhzak means nobody has a chazakah on the properties. Nobody has it in their hands. Because the ones of the mother don't have it in their hands because once she's married, right? So therefore what happens is that it's not going to go to them. It's going to go to her family. And she has a son. So obviously it will go to the son before it goes to anybody else. Now, the half-brothers, they're also not muhzak because at the end of the day, why in the world would they ever be muhzak in a property that belongs to the mother? It's never. It's only because now they both died. Do you say that 1 second? Did she die first, and then the son inherits, and then it goes? So nobody has a chazakah in the properties. Beforehand, people had a chazakah. the husband was muhsak in the properties of the wife. And do you say no, was the family members of the wife were muhsakim because it's nichset surim barzel. Who has the chazakah? Each one is coming and they have a chazakah. So the Mishnah said, leave it in the chazakah. And we started asking, who has the chazakah? But for sure, everybody has a chazakah. Here in this case, nobody has a chazakah. Nobody's muhzak in the karka. So since nobody's muhzak in the karka, even betilel, usually they say, here they're going to be modeh, yachloku. Amar Rabbi Akiva, says Rabbi Akiva, modeh ani bazo, she'anechasim becheskatan. He says, I argue. And according to me, right, we don't say yachloku, but rather we put it in the chazakah, because one of them is considered a muhzak. Now the Gemara is going to explain who's a muhzak here. Who is Rabbi Akiva just says modiani becheskatan. Who has the chazakah? Who? We don't know yet. The Gemara is going to explain. But Rabbi Akiva says no, it's bechazakah. And if it's going to be bechazakah, so therefore motzim bechabiliyah. Amar lo ben Azai, says ben Azai to Rabbi Akiva, ala chalukin anu mitzta'arim, ela shebata lechalek alenu et hashavim. He says we are already suffer so much because of machlokot between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel. Now, finally, they come and they agree. And even that you're going to now come and tell me they don't agree? Like, like they're already all the time arguing. Now you're going to come and you're going to also they disagree in this case as well. Fine. That's Ben Azai. Right? Okay. Says the Gemara. Yeah. Peacemaker. Yeah. Nobel Prize. Yeah. So he says like this. Becheskat mi. Yeah. Says the Gemara. Becheskat mi, meaning according to Shitat Rabbi Akiva says that it's in a chazakah. Who has a chazakah? Who has a chazakah exactly? Rabbi Ilah says becheskat yorshei haem. It's a chazakah in the yorshim of the mother, the family of the mother, right? Those are the inheritors of the mother. They're the ones that are chazakim, and they have a chazakah. And the Gemara is going to explain why. Rabbi Zera says cheskat yorshei ben. No, it's the son that has a chazakah. So there's a machloket. Even when Rabbi Akiva comes and he says that you leave it in the chazakah of who? You have machloket between Rabbi Ilah and Rabbi Zera. So now let's try to explain. Kisalik Rabbi Zera, when Rabbi Zera came and he went he went up to Eretz Yisrael, kam b'shitatet Rabbi Ilah. Do you know, he went in the shita of Rabbi Ilah, right? Which means he was chazarbo, he retracted. And he says, you know what? He was right. Yorshei haem. So he retracted. Yeah, you retracted Yorshei haem. Yeah, Amar Bizera says Bizera, Shema Mina, we learn from here, Avira Eretz Yisrael Machkin. The Avira of Eretz Yisrael is going to be Machkin, meaning until there he was in Bavel. Right? Babylonia is, so what happened? Went to Eretz Yisrael, Avira Eretz Yisrael Machkima, all of a sudden he says, you know what? I retracted. I hold like Rabbi Ilah, and therefore what? I retract. It's Yorshei haem. Machkim, Chacham. Make it clever. Chacham. Machkim. It makes you a chacham. Okay? So he says, V'tama mai. Yes, he went up. So he says, V'tama mai. Now the question is, why? Yeah? So he comes and he says this. He says, Amar Abaye says, Hoil v'uchsaka nachala beoto shevet. You know why? They already have it from the shevet. Meaning, before this woman came and she got married to someone. Yeah? Before she got married to someone. Where was it? It was in a chazakah that it's shevet, whatever, dan, let's say. So therefore, she already has a chazakah that it belongs, right? There's a lot of place on the table. Mordechai, there's a lot of place on the table. Yeah. So therefore, he comes and he says, yeah, So he comes and he says this. He says, since already the shevet already had the chazakah, so Yorshei haem are always considered muhzak because they're coming from that shevet. Meaning the Yorshim of the husband or another shevet. Again, obviously here we're talking about the two different shvatim, because if not, there's nothing we're talking about, right? So let's say the Yorshei Av, they come from one shevet, right? And the father was from another shevet, right? And the Yorshei haem are one shevet. So therefore, since from the beginning they always had a chazakah in this land, they are always considered muhzak. So when Rabbi Akiva comes and he says, you leave it in the hands of those who are muhzakim, who is that? Yorshei haem. At the beginning, we had a machloket between Rabbi Ilah and Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera came and no, Yorshei Av. Afterwards, he retracted. He said, no, You're right. It's your sha'im. Why? Because they have the chazakah from the beginning. Okay? Fine. 2 dots. Ben Azai. Amar lo Ben Azai. Ben Azai comes and he tells him, Al chalukim and mitzarim. Amar Rabbi Simlai. Says Rabbi Simlai. Ada Amra. It means to say that we can learn from here. Right? So he says, Ben Azai talmid chaver de Rabbi Akiva. Ben Azai is a talmid chaver of Rabbi Akiva. Right? Why? Because he says at the beginning he was the talmid, and then afterwards he became a chaver. So he comes and he says, right, like this. He says the Elmaleh, because he came and he told him shebata. What does that mean? A lot of people here, they have to learn this. There's the musar, right? What's the musar? The musar is that there's such a thing as that when you're a talmid to a rav, you don't speak in, how do you call it, not second tense, right? As if you're equal, right? Second person. You always speak with kavod, third person, right? It's never you. What's you? Yeah, I've never said you. You can never say you, right? Right? Ta. Yeah, it's not a ta. It's a tem. In English, yeah. It's true, but you should know that even in you know, right? It's very, very important that this concept, right? Maybe in English, it's a very informal language, but you should know, right? Whether it's going to be in French or Spanish, there's always going to be a formal way of saying things. So, for example, in French, it's going to be vous avez or vous, whatever, you, but it's in formal. It's a hierarchy. In Spanish, usted, it's always in plural. Why? Because it's not going to be something as if say you, right? And by the way, this I learned even for elders, right? If I'm going to come and I'm going to speak to an elderly person, right? Or a stranger. Right? Or a stranger. It was always they're giving them kavod, right? And by the way, in Hebrew, it's the same thing. It's a tem, right? It's a tem. Now, why is it important to know? Because it's not only just to do with, right, a rabbi, right, or somebody that's going to be much higher up, right? It's also going to be with women, right? Why? Because when you're speaking to a woman, right, for tzniut reasons, it's not at, it's a tem. It's you in plural. It's you as if to say, not you, I'm speaking to you, right? It's mashlomchem. It's always that. So I had a balabait here that he once asked me, he goes to me, I don't understand why you always come, right? And whenever you're speaking and there was a woman, she goes, why you're always speaking? And then afterwards, she realized I was giving a shiur once, and I mentioned this, and then they realized, now you understand why there has to be a distance. There's something of kavod, and there's something of that you have to give. Ben Azai was a talmid of Rabbi Akiva. So if he's a talmid of Rabbi Akiva, he would never dare come and say, shebata, that you came, and now you're basically making a machloket, meaning we already made a peace in the court. Now you're making a machloket, like, like what's going on here? But even with that, he became on the level, after many years, remember the Ben Azai had a special place in Torah. The Gemara, right, the Masechet Yevamot says, right, we're actually just learning this now, right? The Gemara Masechet Yevamot says, and everything says, that a person is not allowed to stop from being osek b'pidya v'rivya. He has to get married, whether it's going to be when he's younger, or even later on, or even if he had to continue. Why? Because of the mitzvah of shevet, which means that even after a boy and a girl, he still has to have more children, or whether it's going to be after v'la'erev tanach l'ilcha, even when he's older. Some people think that they're older, that say they don't have to have any children. It's not true. It's not true. There's a mitzvah v'la'erev al tanach yadecha, which means that even in the nighttime, kilu la'erev, don't leave your hand. You should still have children. And that's why there was a famous rabbi that I think his wife passed away, and he was in his, 60s, 70s, and he went and he had a child. And the reason why, there's a mitzvah v'la'erev. And there's even a machloket in Maran. It's a stam v'yesh. Are you allowed to sell a sefer Torah in order to get married to a woman to support her in order to have more children? Now, Ribono Shel Olam, he's already got children. But there's a machloket, Maran v'Rama. The Bash says that you do sell, right, and so on and so forth. There's a special halacha to do with Ben Azai, right? No, he's already married. He's married. But if right now he has to get married to another one, right? So then that's the question. What? There's a whole question about it. So nowadays, no, because obviously you're not allowed to get married to another wife, but there was a concept, right? So let's say that one would die or whatever case. So obviously, who would he get married to next? So now Ben Azai was a special halacha in a sif in Shulchan Aruch that somebody is going to be batorah ke Ben Azai. Ben Azai loved the Torah so much, he never got married. So Ben Azai never got married. So imagine how much he was in the Torah that he was able from the Talmid to become Talmid Chaver. Not that he was a rabbi. He was never the rabbi of Rabbi Akiva. but he became a Talmid Chaver of Rabbi Akiva. Why? Because Mamash, he never got married. He was learning 24 hours a day. The Shulchan Aruch and the Rambam actually bring down, it has to be Ve'usha Yitzro En Mitkaber Alav, which means that he does not have a Yetz, meaning it cannot be that he still has a Yetzirah and has Hirurim and all these things, because if not, there's nothing to talk about. But there's a special heter in somebody like Ben Azai, he doesn't have to get married. The name because... Yes, that's why this is Ben Azai. This is his name. Yeah, yeah. Okay, but this is again, Milashon, he was Azachama Vetava. Mamash, he was a powerhouse. He was something incredible. It looks like what? Again, not everybody can do that, and it's not advised. It's not advised. It's not advised also. No, it's not advised also. Meaning, and that's also going to be the machloka, the taz, right? Not like the levush, the taz and the nachlat tzvi, they come and they say that it's not lechatchila. Meaning, if a person already does it, so I'm not gonna start giving him on the head. Why? If a person be'emet is like Ben Azai and his entire thing is only the Torah, okay? Yeah, how many people could testify about themselves that they could do that? Right?
He get married.
You're right. He got married and he had children, 100%. But Ben Azai was special. Okay? So fine. So therefore, what happens is that you see that he became a Talmid Chaver. Again, we're talking about Ben Azai. This is a person that his entire life was only dedicated to Torah. So imagine how much he studied and studied until he reached such a level. So then the Gemara says, Shalchu mitam. The Gemara now is going to go back to what the previous Mishnah said, Nafal Abayit Alav Alaviv. You remember there were two different Mishnayot. Nafal Abayit Alav, right, Valimo, or Alav Valishto, right? And then you have Alav Alaviv, which is the previous one. So it says, Shalchu mitam ben shelava minichse aviv dechayav aviv. Imagine right now a son comes and he borrowed money from the properties of the father during the lifetime of the father, and then he died. So beno motzim yad lekuchot. So the son, right, he comes and he's going to take out of the lekuchot vezoi shekasha b'dinei mamonot. And this is very, very difficult halacha to do with dinei mamonot, right? So the Gemara is going to ask a stira. What does that mean? Lava ma'mapik. The way they translated it to you, right away you should start screaming, because I translated it literally. The Gemara says one more time, ben shelava, he borrowed during the lifetime of the father, and then he dies. So the son is going to take out from the lekuchot. Now, 1 second. If he's borrowing, what's he taking out? He borrowed. He didn't lend. He borrowed. So what's going on, right? So he says ve'odem. Furthermore, lekuchot ma'avite. Lekuchot means that somebody purchased something, right? It's not a malvelove, right? It's not borrower and lender. It's lekuchot. Lekuchot means somebody bought something. So what's going on over here? We don't understand what this Gemara is saying, right? So he says. But this is what it really meant to say. Ben shemachar. He didn't borrow. He sold. B'nichsei aviv, b'chaye aviv. Meaning he went and he sold the property. Yeah? He sold the property. Now he's the sole inheritor. But he sold the property during the lifetime of the father. Okay? Nothing. He sold it. Yeah, 1 second. And then, right? Why? So immediately after the death of the father, who's going to get it? The guy that bought it. So the guy comes and he buys it. Now, technically speaking, it still belongs to the father. But the second that the father dies, who gets it? This lekuchot, these guys that purchase them, right? So what happens? Umet, right? And now what happens is, who's going to die, right? Umet, the son dies first. No, not Gam. Right? Yeah, one more time. You have a father and a son. The son is the only inheritor. The son comes and he sells during the lifetime of the father a properties to Mr. A. And he says, Mr. A, when Papa goes to his world, right? He's counting down the days. But when he goes to the world, you get it. Here, money, very good. They make the sale. Now, what happens? Well, obviously, it could only go to the guy once the father dies. He got the money. While the father's alive, he got the money. What happens? The son dies. Not the father. The son dies.
Does the father know about the transaction?
Which one?
He says something he
Does
doesn't
the father
belong
know
to,
about the
Rabbi.
transaction?
Whether he knows or he doesn't know.
It's a fraudulent act
Why is it a fraudulent act?
because it doesn't belong to him.
You could sell something which is going to come to you. That's a machloka between Rabbi Meir and everything. We said that you're allowed to sell something which is going to come, right? It's a zechut that's coming to you. It's a zechut which is coming to you.
So you could sell something that's in your Yerusha.
You could sell something which is fitting to you, whether it'll come or not. Right? We said this a million of times. For example, women used to come and sell their ketubah. What does that mean? They have a ketubah coming to them. So let's say their ketubah was worth $20,000. So they come to somebody and they say, listen, right? I'm going to sell it to you. No. They're already married. So therefore, they come and they tell a guy, listen, I want you to buy my ketubah. Okay. So the guy, he's a broker. He's a broker. So he's going to come and he's going to investigate. He's going to say like this, 1 second. What are the chances of she getting the ketubah or losing the ketubah? If it's going to be that he's a 80-year-old and she's a 20-year-old, right, or a 30-year-old, right? Besides the halakha, forget about now the halakha about, is it permitted or not? But right, let's say, so if that's the case, you're going to say, listen, right, it's a 90% chance that she's getting the ketubah. So it makes sense. I'm going to put my money into it, right? But if it's going to be that she's older than him, right, or that she's sick and he's not sick, so therefore, how much percentage is she getting the ketubah? So obviously, I'm not going to invest a lot of money in that, right? It's like insurance. That's what it is. It's insurance, right? Or, for example, right, how's the shalom bayit between them? So if it looks all hanky-danky, right, all good, so I'm not going to put, but if I know that every single day they're fighting between each other, so I'm going to say, right, I'm going to say, listen, you know what, there's probably, it's probably going to come very, very soon. So therefore, the higher the chances that she's going to get the ketubah, I will pay for the ketubah, right? And the same thing vice versa. So here is the exact same thing. I'm coming and I'm going to, right, the person is going to come and he's going to say, listen, he wants to sell a property. So he says, listen, this is the guy comes and he says, listen, the father is, I don't know what age. So yeah, no problem. I'm willing to pay this price. And he sells it, right? The other guy buys it. So what happens is like this. He says, Umet beno, right? Now what happens is that the father also dies. So beno motzi miyad lekuchot. So what happens is the son, which is going to be the grandson, is going to take out of the lekuchot. Right? Now, why is he going to take out of the lekuchot? This is very difficult in dinei mamonot. Right? Why? He should say, Avuch mezaben ve'at mapik. Your father sold it, and now you're taking it out. So let's try to analyze it, and then we're going to finish for today. Right? What exactly happened? One more time. You have a father, son, grandson. Okay? Father, son, grandson. The son is the only inheritor of the father. Yeah? And this son is only inheritor of his father. So they only had one child each. Yeah? One child each. So you have the father, son, grandson. What happens is the son comes and he's waiting for his father to pass and he needs stuff for cash. So he goes to the guy and he says, you know what? Here, how much? I want to sell you this field. The guy comes, he says, okay, fine, I'm willing to buy it for you for this price. He says, okay. So when the father dies, he takes it, no problem. He buys it for the price. All of a sudden, that son dies. Immediately after that son dies, right? Then who dies? The grandfather. But the son died before the grandfather. So now this grandson can now come and take away from the lekuchot. Why? Because since the son died before the grandfather, right? And only afterwards, so therefore what happened is that son doesn't really inherit. He never inherited because he died even before the grandfather. So now the grandfather dies. Who inherits? The grandson. So the grandson could go to the lekuchot, the guy that bought it, and say, I apologize, give me the field. Well, you think that you get the field? I'm taking the field. Right? One second. So therefore he comes and he says, right? He says, this is very difficult in dinei mamonot because he says, I don't understand you. Your father, the guy could come and tell the grandson, your father sells and you're taking it out. Hey, your father was one that sold it. And now you're going to come and you're going to take it out of everybody else, right? At the end of the day, right, it belongs to us. You had no Yerusha at all, right? Because he says a person cannot inherit something that his father already sold, right? But again, this is going to be very difficult. The Gemara is going to ask, why? How does it work? Where does it go down in Yerusha? Is it that the grandfather gives it to the son and then the son gives it to the grandson? Obviously, we're going to speak about it because that's how we're going to understand, right, the case that we'll do it, B'ezrat Hashem, on Sunday.